Ethical Perspectives on the News is produced by the InterReligious Council of Linn County, which is solely responsible for its content. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KCRG TV9.
Good morning and welcome to Ethical Perspectives on the News. My name is Diehl. I'm currently the Vice President of the InterReligious Council of Linn County, and I'm also on the board of the Humanists of Linn County. On this morning's show, we're going to talk about the value of interreligious work. And with me this morning are three of our past presidents of the InterReligious Council of Linn County. So I've been able to serve with these gentlemen for the last several years as the non-religious member of the InterReligious Council of Linn County. But I thought it would be good for us to start out by each one of you kind of introducing yourself, what you do, and why interfaith work is important to you.
Yes, my name is Charles Crawley. I'm retired from Collins Aerospace, and I teach as an adjunct at Mount Mercy University. And the question was about why this is important to us.
Why interfaith work is important to you. Yeah.
Well, when I first got on this, it was because I wanted to meet people from different faiths, and I wanted to know what they thought, and also to help kind of bridge the gaps that we have. And I would be the first to admit that I don't know a lot about other faiths, and so I thought this would be a good place to learn.
All right. Thank you, Charles.
Well, my name is Taha The Will, and I am the Imam and Director of the Mother Mosque of America, the first mosque in North America, which was built from the ground up. I am also a co-founder of the InterReligious Council. We started way back in the late 1980, and we start as a Rabbi, a chessman, and Cedric Loftal, a minister from Lutheran, and myself. And our goal is to tolerate each other, understand each other, and build some kind of confidence between the communities that we represent. And as you know, we have issues, but these issues have been tearing out all the barriers through dialogue, through tolerance, through understanding each other. So we did felt that this is an important work, and I led the way for Muslims to be able to visit their neighbors and their neighbors to come and visit us.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I'm Todd Thalblum. I'm the rabbi at Temple Judah here. I've been in Cedar Rapids now 11 years and pretty much on the board of the InterReligious Council my whole time that I've been here. I mean, the value of interreligious work is almost immeasurable in some ways. I can think of it in a small sense in our community itself. You know, you're not enemies with people that you're friends with. And so, I mean, from a small standpoint right there, just to get to know one another and to be friends with one another, to do things together, to learn about each other is a wonderful way to broaden our friendship and our base. And on a larger level, on a global level, you know, when you start talking about working together for big things, whether it's civil rights or equal rights, you do that with your friends. You can't do that alone. You have to do that as large groups, and the more that we come together as populations working for shared interests and shared goals, the more successful we are.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And I will again echo just myself, having been involved with the InterReligious Council the last few years. It's just been a great opportunity to get to know people and become friends with individuals across these different faiths. So, faiths that individuals I'd never had access to or exposure to, really, even having been involved in religious work a good portion of my life. So it's been great. And I still feel like I've barely scratched the surface when it comes to truly appreciating all these different faith groups and how we can work together to build a better world. And so, now I thought a good place to start for our conversation here is the InterReligious Council of Linn County, whom we all are, of course, involved with, has a mission, vision, and values statement. And this was actually revised last year and updated. But I thought it'd be a good place to start. And I'm going to just begin by reading it, and I'll have a quick question for each one of you. So the mission of the InterReligious Council of Linn County is to promote mutual understanding and respect among our community of diverse beliefs, and to work towards the social and civic welfare of all. So that's our mission. Our vision is a caring community in which honesty, respect, and responsibility are celebrated. Our values are celebrate, advocate, relate, and educate. So those, has a nice acronym of CARE there. So just to start out, and anybody, this is not directed towards any individual, but why is promoting, as this mission statement says, why is promoting mutual understanding and respect among our religious communities important? I know, Todd, you kind of touched on it, but does somebody want to jump in and say, what have you learned? Why is it important in today's world?
Well, I guess I'd say it's important because religion has been a force for good and a force for evil throughout history. And so Hans Kung once said that if there were no peace among the religions, there would be no peace among the nations. And so we kind of have to start with the religions because we have been responsible for a lot of the bloodshed. And so it's our responsibility to be peacemakers, and that's one thing we do with the InterReligious Council.
I will say also from the Islamic traditions, even before Muhammad, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace be upon him, became commissioned as a prophet, there was what we called InterReligious Council coming together at that time, which we called Hilf al-Fudul. Hilf al-Fudul, this is like a council for tribes to come together to help the poor, the needy, and also justice. And the Prophet at that time, he said, I wish I was invited to it, then I will be, participating. From this and other Quranic verses showing that interreligious dialogue and accepting and equality is part of the faith. So from all that, I was led to go ahead and be with the Interfaith Task Force at beginning, and then the InterReligious Council. So I want to say is that you feel welcome, you feel sharing, and you are part of the community, and that is why promoting understanding, promoting respect, promoting equality is the key elements here. And those who really involve in such thing, they see the reward coming back on their communities and individuals and all neighborhood, as they say. So it's a beautiful way to keep in our community.
Todd, do you have anything to add?
I think from a Jewish perspective, there's a concept of the stranger, that for the longest time we were the strangers in the land of Egypt. We weren't treated as nicely as we could have been, and that we don't want to be the stranger again in the same way. That some of it is about knowing our neighbors so that they know us. Some of it is also the way that we treat the stranger, the disaffected in our community, says a lot about us as well, and that we want to be out there in some way so that we're touching other lives and reaching out to other communities and making sure that everyone is known and understood. I mean, the tolerance that we talked about at the beginning has a lot to do with it as well. That the more that we understand and know each other, that the more that we're able to tolerate and be tolerant of each other's differences, and see that the differences are relatively minor compared to what the similarities are.
Yeah. I mean, we live in this pluralistic society, right? I mean, the United States is very unique in the sense that here in Cedar Rapids, we have hundreds of churches, literally, representing all kinds of different faith groups. And And I think that makes us unique in the world, and being able to kind of tap into that religious diversity and be able to expose people to this, because let's be honest, even in a very a town like ours that has all these different religious beliefs, people still tend to cluster with their faith group that they feel most comfortable with. And I still feel like there's a great opportunity, and I've seen it myself, and I'll share one story where I had gone to the Temple Judah there, I think it was about 1.5 years ago, for a memorial service for, unfortunately, for one of the attacks. I think it was out in New York. But I was struck with going in there and experiencing the service. It was a Shabbat service, I believe, and just to see how within the Jewish customs there, how you honored and revered the dead, how it informed your life, how it brought meaning and purpose in your life. To me, that was something that I think we've lost in our society, right? My aunt died, okay, I'll go to her funeral, and then it's time to move on to the next thing in life. Whereas what I was touched with was just this ability to grieve. And I think there was one person from your congregation who was lighting a candle for, I think, his great uncle that had died in World War I, 100 years ago, right? And he's still remembering and cherishing the sacrifice that he made. And I thought, my gosh, that is something that we all can learn from. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what, I would not have learned that had not been able to kind of get out of my comfort zone and go to a place like that. So that's just one kind of anecdotal story that I was able to share. But so I think the more people can kind of be exposed to these different religious traditions, I think it can just make you a better person overall. So anyways, that was my kind of take on how I experienced. I don't know if there's something that touched on.
Well, I think we do. I mean, we do some wonderful programs from the InterReligious Council annual programs, whether it's the community-wide Holocaust Memorial, to the Ethical Perspectives on the News. It's been running for 20 some odd years now. There's a number of things that are really wonderful programs that bring us together and give us those kinds of opportunities. But what you touched on, I think that might have been the service following the Tree of Life shooting, is that even at these moments of real tragedy in our community, having a larger group to reach out to and be able to say, no, I'm here for you, and to be supportive. And that was an amazing, I mean, it was a horrible event that happened, but 200, 250 people from the community all came together for that service that we threw together relatively fast to be supportive. Whenever there's a shooting, unfortunately, whether it's at a mosque or it was at the Sikh temple or it's at one of the synagogues, my friends from the InterReligious Council reach out, not only Taha, but also Hassan Salim at the Islamic Center as well. How can we be there for you? Can we come surround your building to make sure you're safe? And of course, I offer the same thing at the other shootings for them, so that we are a community that protects one another and looks out for one another, and that makes us all safer as well.
I want to just add that the InterReligious Council become like a family.
Yes.
And we become like brothers and sisters in humanity. And the beautiful thing is United States of America celebrate freedom of religion and help each and every one of us to practice their faith, to promote their faith, to share their faith. And we are living in a very peaceful community here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where tolerance, love, respect are always have been the merits of this community. And therefore, the first generation, second generation, third, and now we are in the fourth generation, moving toward this family unity, this community as one community. And we stand up for each other, for the truth, for the light. We dialogue. We forget to add that we have dialogue committees. We have subject. And now everyone in town knows that Muslims are Abrahamic, coming from the other side of Abraham, Ishmael, and his wife Hagar, recognizing Sarah and Isaac. So this way the people start to wake up and to accept each other and tolerate each other. The other thing was the movable feast. We didn't do that for a long time, but we start by having each month to visit a community and to eat there and to share. And it has been, you know, for 3 years we did this movable feast that we celebrate each other, and not only just talk, but also food is involved, culture is involved, and other aspects of building a strong family.
Yeah. No, I don't think it can be overstated how important leadership, the importance of the leadership that this Interreligious Council and the example that it sets to the community as a whole, right? To be able to as the Imam and the Rabbi and Christian leaders can come together and set that example for our broader congregations in religious communities. I think that's a testament to why we haven't had really religious strife in this community to speak of. So, you know, I think that's excellent. Charles, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? Okay. Now, I know I've talked to some people in the past, and they've made the comment, you know, well, you know, what's the point of an interfaith group, right? So you always have your critics of groups like this that may have more stringent views on a person's religious identity. But one question I did have, and again, this is for anyone, should interreligious work in any way reduce an individual's commitment to their religious identity? Again, this idea that, well, if I get together with you and I sit together on a stage with you or go to your service, Todd, and I'm a Muslim or I'm a humanist or I'm whatever, that somehow, you know, delegitimizes my beliefs or legitimizes yours, and you know, what's the end goal here? What is your response? It's kind of a difficult question, but what's your response to that? Do you feel like interfaith work in any way? And I know the Interreligious Council kind of has a stance on that, but maybe Charles, you could speak to it.
Yeah, well, I think that you really only know yourself in community with others. And you may be raised in a tradition, but you really don't know the depth or the boundaries of that tradition until it comes up against others. In the Christian tradition, we read the Hebrew Bible, so we know about that. But if you read the Quran, it has a lot of the same stories from the Old and the New Testaments. And so unless you're willing to get out of the comfort zone, that phrase that you used earlier, you're not going to know the depth of your own tradition, and you're going to be threatened by these others unless you really dig into them a little bit.
I think also it will be a weakness on the other side, those who refuse to come and listen and know about their neighbors or know about their faith, culture. I feel it's a signal that they have some defects somewhere, and that is because they are not able to face their neighbors. They are not able to treat them as equal. And to begin with, as a co-founder of the InterReligious Council, I remember when we started with the Churches United. Myself as interfaith and other groups also was with us. And what happened, they accept us as a task force interfaith, but the rabbi did not involve. And we asked why he is not involved 2-3 years down the road. Then he said, if you want me to be involved, then I need to be equal and full capacity as a citizen, voice and vote. I was accepting even just voice without vote, but the rabbi taught us a moral lesson that we are in America and we should ask for our rights and we should be equal. So this way the Churches United went ahead and finally they voted no. They don't want to open it up. So we have to gather together and to do this InterReligious Council and to move forward. And we have almost 26 years in business and functioning. So what I am saying, we start with the 3 principles. We said, each one of us speak about his faith without compromising. So The second step is to see what's the common ground between us, commonality. Let's work and celebrate what we have in common. We believe in God, we believe in hereafter, we believe in angels, and so on. And then the third one, let's dialogue on the differences. And so these are the three principles I remember that we put it at the beginning. From there, everybody was able to speak about his faith. I am not trying to pull you over to my faith, or he is not trying to pull me over to his faith or her faith, but we were adult, we were mutually understanding each other, and the purpose was peace, peace in the community. Second purpose was to teach our children, the future generation, to see what we are doing, paving the way for them so they can live in peace and harmony after us, by dialoguing, by talking. So I think it gives us more strength. I did not compromise my faith at all. I was always up front, and everybody knows me, talking bold, as they say. But when it comes to dialogue, I just state my opinion and what the faith is saying, and then I leave it like that, without, you know, fighting or this or that. I am not like that.
From my community's perspective, and from my own as well, is dialoguing with other faiths and learning about them has never diluted my faith, but made me feel more strongly in it more than anything else usually. Oh, that's really interesting. That's totally different than what I feel. You know, it's not that it's made me, it's diluted it in some way, but made me even stronger in the one that I've had. And that's not just within my interfaith work with other Christian groups. Whenever I work with other Jewish groups, sometimes I'm more solidified in my Reformed standing as a Reformed Jew than a traditional Jew sometimes, and that's whenever I'm learning about other things. It's always made it more powerful for me rather than weaker.
And I will say, though, I mean, I understand your point. Actually, it's human nature sometimes, actually, to hear the opposition's, or not the opposition, hear another person's viewpoint, an opposing viewpoint, and sometimes to cause it to double down on your own. Right. But I also think that there is value that in hearing a different viewpoint and kind of going back and rethinking, you know what, maybe my position on that, and it may not necessarily be religious, right? I mean, this applies to anything, is to kind of go back and say, well, maybe I'm just a little bit. Maybe I'm a little extreme on that. Maybe I need to, he made a good point, she made a good point. And I think there is value in that. I certainly have had that happen, even in the conversations I've had with the InterReligious Council. So I think there is certainly some value there in especially if you have a really isolated community that isn't outside of their bubble, right? We talk a lot about that, right? Get out of your bubble, get exposed to ideas that challenge you. I think that's just another great thing that the the InterReligious Council brings.
Yeah, I'm often surprised when we have one of our dialogue groups, the similarities between the different religions, whatever we happen to be talking about. It's very similar to the way that we do it. Maybe a little different in this way, but the underlying theme or the real nugget of truth is almost the same.
Yeah. No, I have been shocked about how similar we are in so many ways, and that is something that we celebrate and certainly promote. So I came across this quote in a book called Trialogue, between Jews, Christians, and Muslims. The book was actually called Trialogue, Jews, Christians, and Muslims in Dialogue. But it says, in the dialogue of the head, we mentally reach out, and this is talking about just as we interact with each other in this interfaith setting, we mentally reach out to the other to learn from those who think differently from us. In the dialogue of the hands, we all work together to make the world a better place in which we all must live together. In the dialogue of the heart, we share the experience of the emotions of those different from us. Is there anything in there that you can speak to, and we only have about 5 minutes left, but maybe a particular story or something that jumps out at you that you says, okay, here's an example of how I was able to kind of experience one of these, whether it be working with my heart, hand, or my mind within the context of interfaith?
I will say that we in the InterReligious Council practice what we preach. So we walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And it is true that in the scripture, love your neighbor. And so this is a fact.
Yeah.
And so the InterReligious Council is a human council trying to practice the faith in the best manner. And so that's what attracts people to support and to help. And we have so many projects in the community. For the mind, it makes sense that what we do is loving our neighbors and strengthening our relation with them. For the heart, it is coming through what we call the Bible, the Quran, the Hebrew scripture. It says that, you know, love your neighbor and help your neighbor. And in our hands, I will give you two examples. One, after 9/11, after these atrocities, I found a bouquet of flowers on the steps of the mosque. The same thing with the Islamic Center. Later, we have so many resolutions from the community. In March of 2017, a multi-rally came, faith rally came from all over Iowa, and they surround the Mother Mosque like a human shield. I saw it. And you were there, I believe, and Charlie and Rabbi. So it seems that we are in it together, and our faith commend it, and strongly living in peace and happiness, and we hope we can continue more.
That's beautiful. I don't think we could add much more to that. So we do have just a couple minutes left. I thought, you know, the InterReligious Council, as we've talked about, actually is an exciting organization. We're doing a lot here in the community. We're growing. We actually had at our last board meeting, 3 new members joined the board from our different faith groups, and 1 probably next month from a major faith group here in town. So it's growing. We have, I think we could all agree, there's a lot more that we could do. But maybe somebody, Charles or Todd, do you want to speak to maybe what you see as some opportunities for the InterReligious Council to grow in the future? Well,
yeah, I'll just mention our values are celebrate, advocate, relate, and educate. And I think that we spend a lot of our time educating, but not enough advocating. And I think we need to be willing to get more out in the community on social issues and be willing to take stands. And that's one thing I think we can do better.
Yeah, I probably would agree with that. We've done a really nice job of being able to come together around an issue here or an event here or a tragedy in some way. You know, as you said, celebrate. I'm not sure how often we get a chance to just celebrate some of our real strengths, accomplishments, some of our, the Thanksgiving service once a year is certainly one of the ways that we are able to do that. But the more that we can certainly celebrate our similarities, the things that we're working for in common, I think that might also be one of the places that we can expand at least our reach to the community.
In 30 seconds, if you allow me.
I've got 1 minute.
All right. What I want to say is our success not only comes from our faith and traditions that we share, it is also from the community. It is from the city of Cedar Rapids, the state of Iowa. This is the real environment that help us to share, to come forward, and be a full citizen, as they say.
Excellent. Yeah, for myself, I'd love to see us get more young people involved and have activities. We talked a little bit about that. So lots of exciting things ahead. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Thank you, viewer, for joining us here this morning as well. And hope you have a great Sunday. Thank you. Take care.